After being informed that they would be banned from the Champions League for the next 2 seasons and fined 30 million euros, City replied with anger, confident that they will come out of this courtroom date with UEFA as the victors. Hey there, I'm Adrian. Welcome to Rabona TV. Now, can I tell you whether or not City have a good legal footing to have their ban completely overturned via the Court of Arbitration for Sport? No, nobody can at the moment, as UEFA haven't revealed their findings from their investigation, and City have not released their, quote, irrefutable evidence, but we can discuss what information is out there from various journalists and legal experts, and I'll give updates on who City have hired to represent them, etc. I've been reading and listening to a lot lately. And by the way, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, banned, fined, what? I have a video for you to watch to catch you up. Just click or tap on the iCard here. That covers how the leaks played a role, what the leaks allege City did, and the general overview of what's happened so far. Shall we? Now, if you have been following this situation closely, then you'll remember one leaked email in particular that allegedly showed Manchester City lawyer Simon Cliff stating that rather than accept any sort of punishment for their alleged breaches of FFP, they would, quote, rather spend £30 million on the best 50 lawyers in the world to sue them for the next 10 years. That, of course, would be very debilitating for UEFA, as the legal fees would be insane. For City, with the financial backing that they have of Sheikh Mansour and his family fortune of billions, and in a nutshell, it could push City to settle for a lesser fine or a lesser ban. For City, with the financial backing that they have of Sheikh Mansour and his family fortune of billions, perhaps trillions of dollars, this would be water off the duck's back, an amount that they can afford to scoff at. Now, if the rumors are true, as they have been flying around the media, then Manchester City have apparently hired Lord Panic to help them get their Champions League ban overturned. He joins an already star-studded legal team that Manchester City is building to take to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. What, is there no FFP for assembling legal teams? By the way, Lord Panic, besides having an incredible name that will no doubt cause more terrible puns like the one that I made, he has won some extremely notable cases in his career and specializes in constitutional law and human rights. The main headline that was circulating was, Man City hire lawyer who twice blocked Brexit to help them stay in Europe. Pretty good headline. Mirror. I'll give you that. But yes, he represented Gina Miller on 2 occasions and helped stop Theresa May from taking Britain out of the European Union without running it by Parliament. Then, he led the team that won the case against Boris Johnson back in September of 2019, as he had given unlawful advice to the Queen. Now, if City's ban isn't overturned by CAS and its panic stations for City, sorry, had to, then they are apparently already strapped up with a lawyer for the Swiss courts. Now, what are some of the potential reasons as to why City are confident that they will win besides, of course, their Galactico legal team? Now, of course, we may find that City themselves are guilty in some way or another. We may also find that they are not, but the thing that keeps on coming up from Khaldoun Al-Mubarak's interviews or press releases from the club is a criticism of the investigation process by UEFA. The judge, jury, and executioner was UEFA, is basically their sentiment. Now, both sides are pointing the finger at each other, a la Michael Scott, Dwight, and Andy. UEFA say that City haven't been compliant, while City say the investigation is a joke, and in steps CAS. City also are pointing to how they anticipated this verdict from UEFA, given that the investigation wasn't at all impartial, and as they believe, there were some clear biases. In fact, here's a refresher of what City said in response to the UEFA verdict. Manchester City is disappointed but not surprised by today's announcement by the UEFA Adjudicatory Chamber. The club has always anticipated the ultimate need to seek out an independent body and process to impartially consider the comprehensive body of irrefutable evidence in support of its position. In December 2018, the UEFA chief investigator publicly previewed the outcome and sanction he intended to be delivered to Manchester City, before any investigation had even begun. The subsequent flawed and consistently leaked UEFA process he oversaw has meant that there was little doubt in the result that he would deliver. The club has formally complained to the UEFA disciplinary body, a complaint which was validated by a CAS ruling. Simply put, this is a case initiated by UEFA, prosecuted by UEFA, and judged by UEFA. With this prejudicial process now over, the club will pursue an impartial judgment as quickly as possible and will therefore, in the first instance, commence proceedings with the Court of Arbitration for Sport at the earliest opportunity. So in my reading, I found an article by BBC journalist Dan Roan, of course I've linked that below, in which he explains how there may be a legal precedent here that City are looking to. Back in 2008, Ömer Rize, a Turkish/English dual national footballer, now a coach at Watford, left his club Trabzonspor as he claimed that they had not paid him. The Turkish Football Federation sided with his club and claimed that Rize had terminated his contract. On top of that, they doubled down and fined him for, in their opinion, terminating his contract illegally. Now, I'll pass it over to Dan Roan, brought to life by Adrian from Rabona TV. So Rize appealed, first to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, then the Swiss Federal Court, and ultimately to the European Court of Human Rights. Last month, Rize, who has retired as a player and now coaching at Watford's academy, heard he had finally won a decade-long legal battle. The ECHR decided the European Convention of Human Rights had been violated because the arbitration panel was appointed by the TFF's directors, and therefore Rize had legitimate reason to doubt it had approached his case with the necessary independence and impartiality. So what does this have to do with FFP? Nothing at all, but we all know how the legal system is. Whether you are guilty or not, it doesn't matter sometimes, as a good legal team can find, I don't want to call it a loophole or a technicality or a way of distracting from the allegations, but if City can prove that the process in which UEFA investigated was not impartial, then they can push this ban further down the line, further, and further still, letting it get caught up in the trappings of courts. Various courts, in this case. Speaking of even further down the line, let's explore this some more. In the very same article, Dan Roan spoke to British sports lawyer John Merzad, and he believes that since the Rize case reached its conclusion just about a month ago now, yes, it was going on for more than a decade, then City's legal team will be looking to that ruling with the hopes that they can convince the CAS to adopt a similar sort of ruling. As Merzad told Roan, quote, "They can't have missed it. I can already predict the argument they will run at CAS. The ECHR said that, in terms of a fair trial process, having a disciplinary body that also appoints the panelists who carry out the decision-making means there isn't sufficient distance between the two. In terms of the adjudicatory chamber members' expenses and appointments, they are at the behest of UEFA. That's not going to necessarily be sufficient to show a lack of impartiality, but you can see how there are arguments, and they have to raise those points now for them to be considered further down the line." Now, as you'll likely remember, but I'm going to go ahead and remind you anyway, the leaked emails and documents which City have not denied the authenticity of, legal representative Simon Cliff claimed that the ownership was willing to hire whoever they needed to in order to fight this case until UEFA were exhausted of finances or patience. And finances are not a problem for City's ownership. So back to Roan. Merzad predicts that, with money no object, City's lawyers will refer CAS to the precedent set by the Rize verdict, confront UEFA with the threat of dragging their case out in a similar fashion, make clear their willingness to take their challenge to higher courts, and hope the governing body offers a settlement involving a reduced punishment, rather than risk the uncertainty of a drawn-out legal fight. So yeah, this is the area that you would expect City would focus their legal efforts on should the evidence end up being stacked against them in regards to any breaches in FFP rulings, fraudulent activity, etc. I will say though, from what I have read from various legal experts, it seems as though a lot of these avenues that City would go down would do not much more other than throw wrenches in the cogs of the legal process and push their ban further down the line. Because after all, throwing the question of impartiality aside, if the evidence shows that they are guilty of FFP breaches, then they're guilty of FFP breaches. The question is, with that super squad of lawyers and the financial backing to go on and on, will UEFA be down for a fight with this City legal team, even if they know City has done wrong? One would think that they wouldn't be willing to go down that road. So in closing, we'll soon know more about a timeline as far as this goes. Soon we'll find out from a CAS official as to whether or not City's ban will be suspended, not dropped, but just suspended until the CAS case between UEFA and City continues. The ruling on the suspension will come down to whether or not the CAS official believes that City's appeal has any merit, according, again, to Rome. Alright guys, there's a few reasons as to why and how City could have their ban overturned, or at the very least, delayed for months and months, maybe even years or a decade, if City do fight this as the email leaks and the tone of their press releases would suggest. If you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing to support the channel, or hey, even just a like is appreciated. Thanks for watching, my name is Adrian, and I'll catch you in the next video. Later!